Shabbat Shalom and welcome back to the Grim Truth, where we speak the truth. That's really all I've ever done on this channel, despite what people say about me. But you know how people are. Forgive and forget. Pray about them. Pray for them. Pray a lot, because people need prayer. I think the whole entire nation of the United States is lacking in prayer and lacking in belief. You could really say the whole world is at this point, I think, because it just seems that way to me. And I could be wrong. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that still have faith and still believe, but a lot of people are being deceived by modern Christianity and modern churches. And it's obvious that they're being deceived. They're being told things that are clearly deception. And it's what Yeshua has warned us about in, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, really. That be warned, or be careful, guard yourselves, make sure you are not being deceived. And how do you do this? How do you make sure that you are not being deceived by people who claim to be following the Bible or claim to be religious? Well, religion, in my opinion, in itself is a deception, but it's really easy to guard yourself and not be deceived. You pray for wisdom and discernment. And most importantly, I guess I wouldn't say most importantly, because prayer is probably the most important thing, but secondly, you read the whole thing, like the whole thing, all of it, all the way through. So that's what we're doing here today. We're picking up with Leviticus 6. We left off with Leviticus 5, where they were talking about sin offerings and sacrificing the animals of sins. And before we get into that, I would like to just recap a little bit of Leviticus 5 and why, and I said this in the previous reading, is why we don't do that anymore is because Yeshua did that for us. He took his own blood to the temple, to the most set apart place, as it is called. And I'm going to read this for you really quickly, what it is. And this is just going off of last week's reading, from Leviticus 4 and 5. This is Hebrews 9, starting at verse 11. But Messiah, having become a high priest of the coming good matters through the greater and more perfect tent, not made with hands, that is, not of this creation, entered into the most set apart place once for all, not with the blood of goats and calves, but with his own blood, having obtained everlasting redemption. For if the blood of bulls and goats and the ashes of a heifer sprinkled in the defiled set apart for the cleansing of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of the Messiah, who through the everlasting Spirit offered himself unblemished to Elohim, cleanse your consciences from dead works to serve the living Elohim. So Yeshua entered the most set apart place, the tent that is not of this creation, the tent that was not made by humans. Now, we read in Exodus, right near the end of Exodus, how the tent was made. They made a tent, but that was a facsimile or a copy of the most high place, the most set apart place. So where did we read that there was a place before then? We didn't. We don't have that here in the Torah, but we do know it from Hebrews and from Yeshua himself, what he did, that there was another. And they just said it right there in Hebrews 11. It wasn't of this creation. It wasn't made by men. It wasn't made on earth. It is the most set apart place in heaven. So imagine the tent of appointment, but the heavenly version of that. And that is where Yeshua took his own blood and offered it for the ascending offering, or the sin offering, for the entire world, for everyone who believes in him or believes on him. So that being said, that takes us right back to Torah, because Without that, we would still be, we wouldn't have any goats left on the planet because there's too many of us and we all sin way too much. So that being said, we're back here in Leviticus chapter 6. I feel like the Shema is needed. The Shema, hear, O Israel, Yahweh our Elohim, Yahweh is one, and we will love Yahweh our Elohim with all of our heart, with all of our being, with all of our might. And Yeshua says, and with all of our mind. And that's a good one. And that's one that I try to use a lot, especially when I'm driving in traffic, because I have a road rage issue. I've always had a road rage. Well, I've given it up, and I'm trying really hard, but it's something he likes to test me with. He tests me a lot with my road rage and people cutting me off in traffic. Because as a professional driver, which I have been for many years and still am, I still do drive a lot. I just don't drive big trucks no more. I drive little things like this every single day. Except for on Shabbat, obviously. And he loves to throw people in my way. He puts them there. Puts them there on purpose. I know he does. He's like, here. Let's see if you can handle this today. So yeah, give it to him. And that's one thing that really helps me is just the thought. You put it in your head is, I will love Yahweh my Elohim with all of my mind. I just think those thoughts, I don't speak it out loud necessarily, but I think the thoughts. And the Shema found in Deuteronomy chapter 4 through, Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 4. Yeah, starting at verse 4, I believe. Anyway, 7 minutes in this video, I haven't read a thing. Leviticus 6. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, when any being sins and committed a trespass against Yahweh, and has lied to his neighbor about a deposit, or about a pledge, or about a robbery, or shall extort from his neighbor, or has found what was lost, and has lied concerning it, or did swear falsely, so that he sins in regard to any one of all these that a man does. We're talking about bearing false witness here. In the 10 Commandments, it literally does not say thou shalt not lie, because if you go back to Abraham in Genesis, Abraham was going and telling, the people of the cities he was going in that his wife was his sister. Now, that may have been kind of true anyway, but he was saying these falsehoods so that he didn't die. And there's been other cases of lies being told for saving people, and lies being told to, preserve the Torah, really. And so it's not that thou shalt not lie. It doesn't say that. It says thou shalt not bear false witness. Okay, I'm just going to keep reading. Verse 4. Then it shall be, when he sins and shall be guilty, that he shall return what he took by robbery, or what he has extorted, or the deposit which was deposited with him, or the lost item which he found, or all that which he swore falsely, he shall repay its total value, add 1/5 more to it, and give it to whom it belongs on the day of his guilt offering. So you're going to pay it back with interest. Then he brings his guilt offering to Yahweh, a ram, a perfect one, from the flock with your valuation as a guilt offering to the priest. And the priest shall make atonement for him before Yahweh, and he shall be forgiven what he did that made him guilty. The priest, he brought his offering to the priest. We see the same thing for your other sin offerings in Leviticus 4 and 5. You're bringing these offerings to the priest. Now, where's the priest currently? Where do we bring our offerings? We just read it in Hebrews. We did. We have one high priest. That's where our offering is going to be. That's where we go to cleanse ourselves of our sin. And you don't get a get out of hell free card. There's no such thing. You can't just say one prayer, oh, please forgive me, and be cleansed and be free and be able to go. That's not how that works. You really should read. You have to do several things to make it there. And the path is narrow. The path is narrow, and few will find it. So says Yeshua. The other path is wide. The other path is wide, and most people are going down that path. There's two paths. Which one do you want to be on? And Yahweh spoke to Moshe. This is verse 8. Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, command Aaron, or Aharon, that's how it's actually pronounced, I believe, in Hebrew, Aharon, and his son, saying, this is the Torah of the ascending offering. This is the law of the ascending offering. This is the ascending offering, because it is burned on the slaughter place all night until morning, and the fire of the slaughter place is kept burning on it. And the priest shall put on his linen garment, and put his linen trousers on his body, and shall take up the ashes of the ascending offering, which the fire has consumed on the slaughter place, and shall put them beside the slaughter place. And he shall take off his garments, and put on other garments, and shall bring the ashes outside the camp to a clean place. Now, the garments in the most set apart place were all white linen garments. That was pure white linen. From what I've read, I believe it might be a little bit farther, but it's pure white linen garments. I mean, we'll see this probably, I think it's around chapter 16-ish, somewhere in Leviticus. And that symbolizes, what is Yeshua wearing when he comes back? What is the high priest wearing when he comes back? 12. And the fire on the slaughter place is kept burning on it. It is not put out, and the priest shall burn wood on it every morning, and arrange the ascending offering on it, and shall burn on it the fat of the peace offerings. Fire is continually kept burning on the slaughter place. It is not put out. And this is the Torah of the grain offering. The sons of Aaron shall bring it near before Yahweh in front of the slaughter place, and shall take from it with his hand from the fine flour of the grain offering, and from its oil, and all the frankincense which is on the grain offering, and shall burn it on the slaughter place for a sweet fragrance as its remembrance portion to Yahweh. Another thought just hit me is when Yeshua comes back. When Yeshua comes back, there's 1,000-year reign. Yeshua is going to be here on this earth. It's going to be restored back the way it was before the time of Noah, is what I believe it says. The world looked a lot different before the time of Noah. People lived a lot longer. There's going to be 1,000-year reign. We are going to be doing these things again with our high priest Yeshua. We are. That's what we do. That's why this is here. That's why we are instructed on how this is done. It's not that we can practice it really right now, but we can read it, we can burn it into our heads, we can remember it, and we can know what we're supposed to do when that time comes. Because his people, Yah's people, will be brought here with Yeshua. Read Revelation. Read the New Testament. I read the whole New Testament more than once because I was one of those Christians. Not anymore. All right, shutting up. 16. And Aaron and his sons eat the rest of it. They're talking about the offerings here. Then Aaron and his sons eat the rest of it. It is eaten with unleavened bread in the set apart place. They eat it in the courtyard of the tent of appointment. It is not baked with leaven. I have given it to them as their portion of my offerings made by fire. It is the most set apart, like the sin offering and the guilt offering. So Yahweh is making sure to take care of his priest, his people, as he always does. Yahweh takes care of his people. He will bless everything you touch, everything you do, if there are always an if you do what he wants you to do, if you're doing his things, he blesses everything you touch. But if you're not doing his things, what's he do? He curses. He literally curses everything you touch. He says, F you and everything you do. And, sorry for the vulgarness of that one letter I spoke there, but that is essentially what is going on here. That is essentially it right there. You are cursed by the Father, by the Most High. You are cursed by Yahweh. The being that created the entire universe curses you because you are not doing his things. It's pretty self-explanatory. In 18. And all the males among the children of Aaron eat it, a law forever in your generations concerning the offering made by fire to Yahweh. All that touches them is to be set apart. And set apart. There's a lot you could go in just on that one line right there, set apart. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, This is the offering of Aaron and his sons, which they bring near to Yahweh, beginning on the day when he is anointed, 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a daily grain offering, half of it in the morning and half of it in the evening. It is made on a griddle with oil. Bring it in mixed. Bring the baked portion of the grain offering near, a sweet fragrance to Yahweh. He likes the smell of food. It's just, yeah. 22. And the anointed priest from among his sons, who is in his place, prepares it, a law forever to Yahweh. All of it has to be burned, and every grain offering for the priest is completely burned, it is not eaten. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to Aaron and to his sons, saying, This is the Torah, the law of the sin offering. In the place where the ascending offering is slain, the sin offering is slain before Yahweh. It is most set apart. The priest who is making atonement eats it. In the set-apart place it is eaten in the courtyard of the tent of appointment. All that touches its flesh is to be set apart, and when its blood is sprinkled on any garment, you wash that on which it was sprinkled. You wash that on which it was sprinkled. Wash the garment it was sprinkled on. In a set-apart place. You wash it in a set-apart place. But the earthen vessel in which it is cooked is to be broken. If it is cooked, it is a bronze pot. Then it is scored and rinsed in water. Every male among the priests eats it. It is most set apart. And no sin offering from which any of the blood is brought into the tent of appointment to make atonement in the set apart place is eaten. It is burned with fire. I'm going to go ahead and stop there. We're just going to do the one chapter today because I done run long with my flapping here. But yeah, go back to Hebrews 9. Just read all of Hebrews 9. But if you want, start at chapter 11. That's what I read at the beginning of the video, where it talks about Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach. You know who Yeshua is, right? Jesus the Christ. It talks about him replacing that Torah portion, replacing those blood offerings, those sacrificial offerings, with himself. So that is one of the things that he took care of for us that is in the Torah, because, well, we weren't getting that right. We weren't doing that so well. We just weren't. I mean, Aaron the priest, who also made a golden calf for people to worship because he got tired of waiting on his brother on the mountain who was talking to the Father. I mean, Aaron the priest. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Nobody on this planet is perfect. Only one being ever walked this earth. Okay, two beings that ever walked this earth were perfect, because it does say the Father was in the garden. And there are a lot that believe Yeshua and the Father are the same. They're one and the same. It says, I and my Father are one. He also says that you and your wife should be, or your husband should be, of one flesh. So, I don't think that's necessarily correct. I don't think it is. Because if it was correct, then who exactly was Yeshua praying to when he was here on earth? It doesn't really matter. I mean, the hierarchy of heaven isn't necessary for our salvation. So it doesn't matter. In all of the scope, simply do the things. You believe on Yeshua as your salvation. You pray to the Father through Yeshua, in the name of Yeshua. You do all these things in the name of Yeshua. But I'm getting a spam call. Spam calls lost my place. Lost my train of thought there. But it really doesn't matter. The hierarchy of heaven isn't our concern. We are not to be concerned with what is going on there. What we are to be concerned with right now is our salvation. As the head of my household, I am also concerned and responsible for the salvation of my family and my children. Any man and head of household, you are responsible for your family and their salvation. If you screw up, you can and will be judged on that. You will be judged on them as your children, how well they learned. It says, Deuteronomy. Let me pull it up right here. Real quick, last thing I'm going to do. I promise. I'll shut up after this. Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting at verse 4. I was right. Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh our Elohim, Yahweh is one, and you shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all of your heart, all of your being, and with all of your might. But what most people, when they say the Shema, forget to mention is chapter 6, verse 6. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart. You shall impress them upon your children. Speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and so on and so forth. You, as the man, are responsible for your children, your wife, your family under you. My 3-year-old can recite the Shema in English, obviously. Thank you, Father, for that. It's a beautiful day out here. I'm shutting up. Shalom, everyone.